Hey guys, it's Marissa from Imagine This, an art and music studio for children and adults, and today we are going to be going over Art 2 and Art 3's lesson for the week. So we decided to combine Art 2 and Art 3's lesson for this week. We know that we've been giving some really vigorous lessons for both age groups and both classes, so we wanted to give something kind of a little bit more fun and relaxing, a way to expand our watercolor skills. We thought it would be nice to do it together as an Art 2 and an Art 3 group. So today we are going to be making some Mother's Day cards. They don't have to be Mother's Day cards. They can be thank you cards. They can be get well soon cards, etc. But we are going to be talking about different watercolor skills that we can use to make some really nice cards. So we will be providing the cards for you, and we will not be providing the watercolor, paintbrush, or water or towel. But if you don't have the watercolor, we will be letting you know beforehand, and you are welcome to borrow some from us. Oh, and you will also need some masking tape. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So for this first method I'm going to teach you, you have the option of also using a Sharpie or a pen. We're going to get started by grabbing some masking tape and tearing off 4 pieces about the length of all of our sides here. So it's important before you put the masking tape on the paper, I'm going to put a little bit of the tape on my jeans and rip it off so that we don't have any tearing later. So this is the front of my card. On the front of my card here, maybe I'll paint something here and write Happy Mother's Day, and then on the inside you could write something. You can of course choose the orientation of the card. I'm going to continue to do mine this way. Personally, I don't want this really thick, so I'm going to move off the edge a little bit so it's a little bit more thin. We're going to go ahead and do that to all 4 sides. Alright, now that I have that on there, I want to do a really abstract, watery look from this first card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the wet on wet technique that we've learned in class. Get my paintbrush full of water. You can just paint right over the tape. The tape is going to keep the paint away so that when we're done we have a nice crisp line along here. So I'm just going to play around with different color choices. Remember to, especially if you're borrowing our watercolor paints, just remember to clean off your brush each time before you go into a new paint so that we can keep these nice and clean. Alright, so I've just finished up painting this. Got a nice abstract look here. There are 2 different options. Right now it's still pretty wet, so I can either completely wait for it to dry, or if I want to take my paper towel or towel here, it might be cool to add some different textures just by dabbing on, picking up the water, as well as giving a really cool texture here. So now we're going to go ahead and tear the tape off. When you do so, do it at a right angle, just to be extra sure that we don't have any rips. So you can see I'm pulling down at the angle rather than just lifting it across. And it gives us some really nice clean edge here. And now you have the option, if you want to take your Sharpie or your pen, you can do some designs here on the corner. You can even write in whatever this card is for. You can write thank you if it's a thank you card, or Happy Mother's Day, or thinking of you. I'm going to write Happy Mother's Day. So you can see here that I didn't completely wait for it to dry, which is why it is spreading a little bit down here. So that's a really good bad example of what not to do. So before you write, make sure that everything's completely dry, or else it's going to smear like that. But here is our first card with our abstract background that you can make. So going on to our next 2 cards, I want to show you guys some different ways that you can paint watercolor flowers. now that it's springtime and there are some pretty flowers blooming and Mother's Day, I thought that would be appropriate. So I'm going to teach you 2 different styles, but of course you can feel free to branch out on your own, kind of come up with your own style. I'm going to start here with a rose. So let's do a nice violet rose here. So I'm going to be working a lot with negative space for this specific design. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine a flower in my head. You can pull the picture if you'd like of a rose. And I'm going to start with the inside curves that wrap around each other. And I'm going to use the white space, this negative space, to fill in my flower. So then I'm going to be doing the next petal that wraps around. And as roses, we know that the petals get a little bit more spread out, a little bit more spread out, so they look like they get bigger in size, and they get further apart. So I'm keeping this really organic and wrapping it around each other. So right now it just looks like a bunch of lines, but pretty soon it's going to start looking more like a rose. You can play around with line weight. You want some of these other ones out here to be a little bit thicker, just to represent the growth of the flower spreading open. So now we've got those rose hairs that we're looking down on at the middle, and it starts spreading out. If you wanted to even look more like a rose, right now it's pretty abstract. You can take your pen and you can start outlining some of these designs so that it looks a little bit more petals coming in on each other. And then to top it off, you can even add a stem here at the bottom. And maybe a leaf or two. I really like the pen look. Okay, so you can keep playing around with that. Got a pretty big rose here. Okay, let's move on to another way to paint flowers. So the last way of doing flowers that I'm going to show you before I let you off on your own to experiment with different ways is just regular flower. So let's go ahead and let's start with maybe, I'm really feeling some violet today, some red violets. So again, I really like to play with negative space. So I'm going to start doing these really big pretty petals. Let's do 5 of these. I think I might even add some here in the background, just showing that this flower is really full. And instead of leaving it pretty blank like we did the last one, I'm actually going to be filling these in. I'm going to add some gradients here. We know that from our watercolor classes, we know that the more pigment we use, the darker it's going to be, and the more water we use, the lighter it's going to be. I'm going to start down here pretty dark, add in some water, lighter. We can add in a couple of other darker colors in here. I'm going to keep playing with this negative space. I'm going to leave a tiny bit of white space in between our petals so we can see between them the difference. So I'm just going to keep painting for a little bit and I'll show you the end result. Alright, so I'm just finishing up here. I even went in afterwards and I added in a second flower that we can see from the side. I also went in with my Sharpie and I just added a couple of dark lines just to contrast with the bright colors. I just really like that look. So you can go in, and if you want to also do that, add in a stem here. Stem over here is going to be crossing over. You can add in some more flowers. You can add in different kinds. But it is really fun to play around with the shadows. I did a lot of play with also this negative space to show the highlights. Remember with watercolor that we always want to use the lightest to darkest while we're working so that we can get that nice array. Besides that, that's all we have for you today. But please experiment, come up with your own style of flowers, and have fun. See you guys.